Hey guys, my name is Calum, and in this video I am going to teach you guys, and I'm going to talk about going from self-judgment, self-criticism, self-consciousness to personal peace, high self-esteem, feelings of joy really fast. And the reason why I'm making this video is that I was actually just deep in it this morning. Actually, for the past few days, I was experiencing a lot of self-judgment, more so than I've experienced probably in the past year. And it was all coming at once, and it was related to a similar theme that I've noticed throughout my life. And in an instant, it was released this morning in meditation. And so I'm going to show you guys how to do this. I'm going to kind of talk about this and break it down. It's something that's helped me immensely in my life. It's allowed me to go from having, I would say, I'm pretty much on the lower end of self-esteem when I was younger, to now having really good self-esteem. But it's a very popular and very good topic of conversation because we're all human. We're all here. We're all going through the same things, and no one has it perfectly figured out. And I think part of being human is that we're here to grow, we're here to evolve, and no one here has perfect self-esteem. We all have self-judgment and self-criticism, and hopefully as we go throughout our lives, we develop tools to work through that and to grow and evolve throughout the whole process. One thing that I want to break down really quick, which is probably where most of your pain is coming from, and that's because there's a self-feedback loop with having low self-esteem or having a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism. There's a negative feedback loop that occurs because when we're humans, we're always looking within ourselves. We're always feeling everything that's going on inside of us, and then we're looking outside of ourselves for feedback and for confirmation. And so what happens is when you have judgment towards yourself for a certain aspect of yourself or a certain situation, oftentimes you speak to other people and you look out to see the feedback that you're getting from those around you, because we're social beings, and it's typically negative. And the reason why is that when you have a lot of judgment or self-criticism towards yourself around a certain subject, when you talk to other people, everyone within themselves, they have this unconscious sensor for observing when someone's in a state of low self-esteem or guilt or judgment or doubt, and it's unconsciously uncomfortable for that other person to be interacting with you. So they automatically give off a sense of uncomfortability. They might even be giving off outward judgment or criticism towards you around that. And so the problem is that your ego is feeling all this judgment towards yourself. Like, why are you this? Why are you that? What's wrong with you? Whatever it may be for you in your specific situation. And then you're looking with outside of yourself and you're saying, oh, and they're confirming it. I'm unlovable, or they don't love me, or they don't accept me in this certain situation. So that's kind of how it evolves, and it rolls down in that pattern. Now, I'll come back to that in a second. So what happened was I was deep in meditation, and for the past few days, I've been feeling this recurring self-judgment that, like I said, was stronger than I felt in so long. There's a lot of self-judgment. And I was sitting there in meditation, in a long one, because I knew I needed it this morning, and I was feeling the sensations occurring in the body, which is what you do in meditation. It's very helpful. And I was feeling a lot of pain, and within myself a voice yelled out, and it's related to other videos I made before related to David R. Hawkins, and what it said was, first it was, what am I judging myself for? And so I clearly defined that. I think that's really important, and I think it's actually important to write it down. Because oftentimes it's actually a little bit confusing. The first level awareness, most people don't even know. Most people feel bad, and they don't even know that it's because they're judging themselves and criticizing themselves. So the first level awareness is becoming aware of that. The second level is like becoming really clear on what you're judging yourself on. Even if it's delusional, writing it down and becoming clear on that. So I asked that question, I got clarity on it. And then the second question arose, am I willing to let go of that? And to me, that's been the most effective question in my life. It's the most arresting question I've ever asked myself. Like every time I ask myself, okay, am I willing to let go of that? It always just, boom, just hits me in the chest and just explodes. I'm like always just staggered and stunned and basically arrested in my spot when I ask myself that question, because it automatically implies that you can let go of it. It automatically implies that you're actively holding on to a positionality about yourself. You're literally actively holding on to it unconsciously. So this makes it conscious and makes it also stated and clear that you can let go of it. And so the answer to that question was yes. And then the second question arose, what is my ego getting out of this? So this is another level of awareness that I made a video on recently. The thumbnail is blue and it says David R. Hawkins. It's like maybe 4 videos ago. Your ego is actually getting a secret payoff or gain from any negative emotion that you're experiencing or holding on to. And I know it sounds kind of confusing, but when you're really in a state of self-judgment and self-criticism, your ego is juicing that and feeding off of that in this kind of wallowing aspect of poor me. It has control of you, and it's your ego is getting something out of it, basically. And that's kind of weird to think about, but I discovered what my ego is getting out of it. And I asked myself, am I willing to let go of that? So again, such a challenging question, such an arresting question, because it implies that I can. It implies that this whole thing that I've been judging myself for, that I'm actively holding on to it, and that I can let go. And so the answer was yes. And then what proceeded was about 10 minutes of me feeling a lot, remaining in peace, in meditation, and quiet with my eyes closed, breathing, and saying, yes, I'm willing to let go of this. Yes, I'm willing to let go of this. And it all crumbled, and it all fell away, and it all washed away. And I entered a really amazing state of peace. I've been having an epic day as a result of it. And you may say, Cal, this is pretty simple. Well, I know it is. And the thing is, all spiritual truth, at the end of the day, the best spiritual truth is really simple. And the best spiritual truth you have realizations of over and over and over again, because this life, you're basically given what you can handle and you work through that, and then you're given more, and you have highs and you have lows. And so the most basic spiritual truths I've had realizations of 10, 20 times, and I'll continue to as you reach deeper levels, because there's always a deeper level and understanding of it, and there's always more stacks to be uncovered. So like I said, this particular self-judgment I've had about myself since I was probably 14 or something. And it's been coming up, and I've worked through so much of it, and this may have been the end of it, but likely there's probably a bit more to go. And so I'm gonna keep going. And so coming back to the negative feedback loop, what you'll discover is when you do the inner work and you let go of the self-judgment and criticism, when you then look outside of yourself, everyone's cool, everyone wants to hang out, everyone's loving, everyone's laughing. And so you see that it was all just a reflection of what you were feeling inside, because they sensed that self-judgment. So they were a little bit uncomfortable. They maybe expressed judgment towards you. And that happens a lot with humans, actually. Unconsciously, we kind of work things out for other people, not really in the best way, honestly. And a good story about this is when I was a teenager, I had chronic acne, which I've made a couple of videos on. And as a result, I had a lot of actually self-judgment and criticism when I was a teenager about that. And when I would look outside of myself, other people would sense that. And so it was just this negative feedback loop. Now, when I made the change, because I tried like a million different things, pharmaceuticals, everything, nothing worked, I decided to start changing my diet. And this was back in the day when, like, this was 10 plus years ago, when basically it wasn't popular to eat healthy. It wasn't popular to not eat fast food or to not eat meat or any of these different things. There was no Instagram. It wasn't popular to be a health food eater. And so what would happen is, you would expect there to be so much judgment and criticism from other people, so much questioning. Oh my gosh, you're not eating meat, you're not drinking soda, what are you doing? But in truth, there was absolutely none of that, because I was in such a state of security. So I had fallen so much in love with the idea of taking care of myself and eating healthy and entering a state of personal power in a good way, and realizing I can change any aspect of my life, that I'm in control, that I can love myself, and I can cultivate this amazing life. And so I was having all these realizations. I entered a very high state of self-esteem. I was very secure. And when you're secure, it's impossible for people to make fun of you. That only happens in insecurity. Yet throughout my life, I've seen other people change their diet, and I've seen them get a lot of flack about it, and they've had a lot of trouble with it, and with the social aspect of it. The same thing when I stopped drinking alcohol. No one could question me. No one could make fun of me. Everyone was actually really curious and interested, and kind of wanted to stop drinking themselves when I talked to them. Yet I've also talked to a lot of people that have tried to stop drinking alcohol, and they felt huge pushback from their friends, and it was so difficult, and they couldn't get through because they weren't secure and why they were doing it in the first place. So at the end of the day, if we stop looking at this feedback loop outside of ourselves and we work within, everything gets washed away really fast when you get down to the heavy brass tacks of it. And I know it's super difficult to ask yourself these questions, but I would recommend, if you're in a state of pain, if you're experiencing a lot of self-judgment and criticism, all these things, and it's being reflected outside of you as well, I would recommend meditating, and I would recommend asking yourself these questions, these self-inquiries. So first, figure out what it is that you're really judging or criticizing about yourself and define it. And then secondly, ask yourself if you're willing to let go of that. You're gonna have to ask it multiple times, because the true answer at first might be no, that you're not willing to let go. But even answering in that way is so self-empowering, because it implies that you're holding on to something. So it's gonna take some work, but you'll realize what the deepest things that you've been judging yourself for a while, initially, your ego's not willing to let go. But if you pray, and whatever affiliation you are, I mean, the words are so funny, but I'm a God lover for sure. If you need help, you can pray, you can ask for help. You can pray to have the courage to be willing to let go. You can pray for the willingness to let go, because it can be hard with some of the hardest things, especially if you're mad at someone for something that you think that they did to you, and you ask yourself, am I willing to let go of that? Initially, the answer might be no for a while. But if you continue to hammer on that, you enter more of a state of personal power when you realize that most things are within your control, that you're actively holding on to these pain points in your life. If you ask yourself if you're willing to let go, if you respond to yes, if you work through it, if you flush the sensations throughout your body and you work on it and you sit with it and you do it over the course of one day, or for me, it only took 10 minutes today. But if you work through it over the course of a few days or months or whatever, however long it takes, it is so worth it, because once you're in a state of security and high self-esteem and self-love, your outside life is so much more enjoyable. The way people treat you is so much more enjoyable because you're treating yourself better. So guys, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, definitely like it so more people can see it. Definitely comment so more people can see it, and providing feedback and creating a conversation. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. I know I've been a little bit absent, but it's because I've been writing a book, which I made a couple other videos about. It'll be coming soon, so I'll be coming back on YouTube real soon. I appreciate everyone for watching this video, and have a great day. Ciao.